Hi everyone, welcome back to the Action Movie Show in prime time. As always, it's myself and my associate, Manyninjas.
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen.
While Manyninjas meditates, we'll start it off. So this time around, we're doing 2006's Smoking Aces, starring Ryan Reynolds and Ray Liotta, I suppose, and as two of the main people. Hold on, Manyninjas is holding it up. There we go. And as a bonus, it's if you look closely, it's the HD DVD combo version. We even have the obsolete edition. It's fantastic. The thing is, since it is combo, it actually is HD DVD and DVD at the same time. And I actually do have an HD DVD player. Why, you ask? Because I bought an HD DVD Blu-ray combo player from back when the format was still active. I bought it after the fact, after HD DVD was already dead, when you could get it a lot cheaper. But the thing is, I found the player plays Blu-rays, it plays HD DVD, and it plays DVD. It plays pretty much everything. And to this point, I haven't found any Blu-rays that it hasn't been able to play. So I'm pretty much going to use it until it stops working. And the HD DVD on those, it's a great picture, and actually they're cheap. They're about as cheap as it gets. You can buy them on eBay for a couple of dollars, which is not a bad deal if you actually have a player that can play them. So anyway, Manyninjas, why don't you get us started off? How about your initial impressions on the film?
All right. I'll actually just do before I go that, a quick synopsis here. Slick Las Vegas illusionist buddy Aces Israel isn't playing nice. Turns out he's selling mob secrets to the FBI. After a $1 million contract is put on him, Aces tries to pull his greatest disappearing act before a rogues gallery ex-cons, hitmen, and smoking hot assassins tries to rub him out in this dark action comedy that takes no prisoners. Suffice to say, just based on the description alone, this film has a lot more personality than what we did last week, not to take immediate pot shots to the previous film, but the honest no, it's actually, I would say the description of a dark comedy is actually a pretty good description there. Honestly, there was a lot going on here, and especially with the twists and turns that they end up revealing at the end, which kind of added like, oh, I didn't actually see that one coming for some of that. And just generally, it was actually a pretty fun watch. I was rather surprised by this film. I don't recall seeing this prior to this actual, or prior to this recording for this purpose. So I was pleasantly surprised with what I came across.
Yep. No, the main reason I chose this one is because it's not the most, it's almost like part of a subgenre where they were trying very hard to do almost like a Quentin Tarantino style, where you really had a lot of things were going on. It was a very convoluted plot. They were going and branching off in a bunch of different directions and then coming all back together into the center. And because of that, you ended up getting a lot of perspectives. Every one of the hitmen that they had, the groups they were using, had their own perspective, and you had a ton of little cameos here and there from a lot of people that you would recognize. It is a fun movie. It's silly as hell, and we'll get into a little bit more of that in a second, but I would say it's one of the more fun watches, and it's got rewatchability because it is really a lot of fun to watch. So, with that said, why don't we get into it? One of the things that I will say right off the bat with this movie is that you've got some cameos in it. You've got Ben Affleck and his own little group coming in, and you've got one that isn't really a cameo so much. It's one of the main characters, but one of the fun characters, and we'll talk about a little bit about these the different like factions of assassins that go after they go after Buddy Israel here. First of all, Buddy Israel is a ridiculous name. Buddy Aces Israel. He's a Las Vegas showman that also ended up getting connections to the mob and decided he liked the lifestyle. And they play that up a lot. Even though it's the synopsis there is a little bit misleading because at no point does he actually make any attempt to escape from any of these would-be assassins. He basically hangs out the whole movie in a penthouse. Needless to say, for the actor there, I believe Chris Gibbons, if I'm not mistaken, that's a pretty good deal. You basically get to be a coked-up magician hanging out in a penthouse for the majority of this film.
Yeah, generally the character of Aces Israel, especially from where they put him in this course of film, this is after he had started off with the performance act, then into effectively taking over half of a kind of a mafia family, screwing the poocher and everything, and now he's basically trying to sell himself off to the FBI in exchange for protection from everyone he's managed to piss off, since he's only limited to a small group at this point, compared to where he was before. But he's so coked up and generally drunk and useless throughout the course of the film that he is of no help to anyone, much less himself.
Absolutely. And one of my favorite things is, given that his entire contribution to this film is being a plot device for everybody else, he spends the whole movie in the penthouse, and he's so concerned about his own security, given that he is literally waiting on a deal with the FBI to give him protection, because he's going to go into witness protection as a witness for the federal government. He is so concerned about his security that he's got his security guys, but over and over again, in at least 2 different occasions, he basically sends in a procession of prostitutes and then kicks out one set of prostitutes so that they can then bring a new procession of prostitutes. I'm just saying, for an illusionist and a magician, he's not very good at disappearing.
The only thing that disappeared was any chance of him making an escape in this actual film because of all the screwed up stuff going on around him. Wait, speaking of which, let's see. I'm trying to... Actually, one second. I'm actually going to refer to the back of the case here, since as part of the U-Control features on the HD DVD end, they actually list on a bunch of different features, including listing off how many different groups were after this guy. So, of course, you have the FBI, or the initial FBI agents, which were sent in order to try to track him down as part of the deal. Assuming that the deal went through, they wanted to have some of their own men that were closer on hand in order to actually pick him up if everything went through. This would change, as we'll explain as it goes on there. Alright, you have a series of former police officers that basically became bail bondsmen, because, of course, when Buddy Israel went to hide in this hotel, he ended up kind of ditching bail on a previous thing in order to get there. So,
that was Ben Affleck's group.
Yeah, but that's Ben Affleck's group. So you have 3 different former cops, now bail bondsmen, coming after him in order to bring him back into court, or just in a custody period, in order to get the bail money back for the guy who hired them. After it became clear that the $1 million contract was brought into place, you have the what's referred to as the Lethal Ladies, which was a duo of assassins.
Yep, that was Alicia Keys and the other one.
Unfortunately, I can't remember the other actor's name right now. I'll come with it. So you have those 2 who, on the initial surface, seem like these seem like the least serious of the bunch there, or caricaturized. But as the film goes on, it becomes clear they're actually more proficient than they originally shown as, which was interesting. Although the way half the group ends up was unfortunate. I'll put it that way. We'll discuss that later. The Tremor brothers, a.k.a. the really screwed up neo-Nazi brothers, the trio, it's just generally, they're basically comic relief and really screwed up characters. Fun to watch, but what a total mess. And the last one being an individual who is only referred to as Suit, who is... Oh, wait, actually, no, I'm actually missing
the Swede.
Well, the Swede, that comes in later. Since the Suit and Swede are 2 separate individuals, last I checked.
No, I think it's the same guy.
Yeah, well, no, I'm pretty sure...
Who is the Swede, then?
Well, they introduced the Swede later. He was pretty much hired... Well, do we want to jump the gun for that? Because I believe I actually can answer your question, but it's a little further up in the plot then.
No, right now we're just talking about who's after him, so go ahead.
Okay. The Suit and the Swede, who will be revealed later, are actually part of the same group, which are directly from the Spiazzo crime family, who they have their own agenda, which will be explained by the end of the film exactly what they were up to this whole time. And you have one more, I can't remember the guy's name right now, but basically one more assassin who's effectively known for his horrible tortures of everyone he ends up going after. And in order to cover up his act, he basically chewed off his own fingertips in order to disguise his identity so they couldn't fingerprint him properly and ID him.
Yeah, was he the one, we're going to talk about that a little more, but was he the one who had the retractable blade that he could pull out of his sleeve? Yeah.
Yes, that would be the one that's mostly known for torture.
Very good. So yeah, that's the. I'm just going to be on you for a minute here. Um, like there is a group, a whole group of assassins that are going after him. And the thing that struck me, and I'm just looking it up right now. Bear with me. Let me actually put myself back on here in 2 seconds. Let me do that. All right, so I'm going to come back here while I'm doing a quick search. The thing that struck me with all the characters, as he said, he went through a series of the assassins. The thing that struck me the most, and the thing I found the most interesting, was that when you look at the different groups and the different people that are going after Buddy Israel's character, I think the thing that I found the most entertaining out of it was that the characters all seem to have like a gimmick or quirk, and they really felt and reminded me almost like of a 1980s WWF, like the wrestling over the top characters, because you've got, as he put, the two lethal ladies, who in relative terms are almost the most serious characters, but even then they're a little bit off the wall, a little bit wacky. You've got the one Alicia Keys character who actually goes in to try to get him, presumably, and the other one is sitting there and they're bantering back and forth, and she's got a 50 caliber machine gun, which is overkill for what they really are trying to do. But
Not a machine gun, but it's definitely some kind of a sniper rifle, I think.
it's a 50 caliber. It's a 50 caliber rifle.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I think you're right. It is a sniper rifle, but it's a 50 caliber.
Yeah.
50 caliber, as one of them references, is basically you're trying to take down something really heavily fortified. You're not playing around with the 50 caliber.
What are you trying to kill? An elephant? Something like that was what
No, it was like a helicopter.
Yeah. Ah, there you go.
Yeah, the 50 caliber is not something you would just use in everyday use, even if you're trying to use a sniper rifle with somebody. So you've got them. Relatively speaking, the most sane of the characters. As he put it, as Manyninjas put it, you have the guy who specializes in torture and that chewed off his own fingers. He's ridiculous and over the top. You've got Suits, who's basically also kind of a professional, but again, he's almost kind of cartoonish in the sense that he goes through incredible lengths to capture somebody or to kill them and assume their identity. He's a master of disguise, is what they're trying to say. But their collective approaches are all very strange, so you've got him. But then you've got the three brothers, who are all three brothers, born of the same mother and three different fathers. They're neo-Nazis, and they're insane. They're the most cartoonish of a group of relatively cartoonish characters. Completely ridiculous. They emphasize that these guys just run in and start attacking people. And these are the guys who basically take out Ben Affleck's crew almost near the beginning of the film. So with about half an hour left in the film, you start to really get into the action part of it. But you have to establish all these. You need a lot of time to establish why are people after this guy. What is the reason why there's $1 million bounty on him? They make emphasis that this mob leader wants his heart, presumably, and that's part of the deal. And they try to, and they spend all this time building up all these characters and explaining why everybody wants a piece of him. And the whole time he's hanging out in the penthouse, having the time of his life, basically. And instead of just dealing with the feds himself, he's dealing with the feds through his agent. Like I said, there's a disconnect, almost a surreal element to it, because it is supposed to be a dark comedy. So leave it to this, this Vegas act guy turned mob boss, I suppose, in a way, for his own faction, to do his work through an agent, talking to the FBI, and the FBI itself is also in a strange way. So you've got the FBI represented by Ryan Reynolds and Ray Liotta, but you've also got another section of the FBI represented by Andy Garcia, who's got a very different, who ends up almost on opposite sides. So you can almost split the FBI into two groups with two different goals as the movie goes on. And then you've got all these other assassins trying to take him out in the middle. And by the time you reach the real action element of it, it becomes a bloodbath, this ridiculous thing that takes over the movie and really amps up the ridiculousness to another level.
All right. Well, now that we kind of established kind of how all the players ended up meshing together, and the things are kind of going to, for lack of a better term, and pardon the language, is pretty much a total clusterfuck by the end of the movie. At this point, now I think it's safe to explain where the Swede and Suit kind of fit in, and technically how part of the FBI is loosely related to this. Mind if I continue then?
Go ahead.
All right. Now, as it turns out, the underlying current, which it will explain part of why Buddy Israel's deal will end up going down tubes later on the latter half of the film, as everyone begins really closing in on him, is, as it turns out, Spiazzo, the mob boss who ordered the hit, actually turns out to be
Spoiler!
kind of an inside...
Spoiler!
Yeah, we're going with the spoilers here. It turns out Spiazzo is actually former FBI himself. Namely, the supposed FBI agent that was killed by Spiazzo, as it turns out once they get the extra kind of hidden declassified notes, no, he wasn't killed by Spiazzo, he was Spiazzo all along. And the person that was attempting to kill him, or what they used to kill him, was to cover the fact that there was FBI, ended up coming back down the line after thinking, okay, the guy that we sent in order to infiltrate the mob may have crossed the line and become too much of a mobster himself, become the real mobster, so we have to silence him to cover our tracks. But we failed in killing him, so he ended up becoming, well, Heller ended up becoming Spiazzo for real and on a permanent basis. But in case we could try to recover him, it turns out because of all the health issues there as a recovery from the attempted assassination by the FBI, if we can use him or try to bring him back by bringing him the one thing that can possibly save him, being Buddy Israel's heart, because as it turns out, Buddy Israel is Spiazzo's own son, the only compatible, or the most compatible heart donor that they could find, then maybe they could get Spiazzo himself to spill the beans and start basically giving him a lot of information to try to bring down the mob. And how does Suit and Swede come in? As they explain by the end of the film, the FBI ends up spelling this out. I can't remember what the name of the director is at the time.
Andy Garcia, don't worry about it. It's Andy Garcia.
Yeah, well, basically, Andy Garcia's character, the director, explains that the Swede that everyone was talking about wasn't an assassin, but was a heart surgeon, which the Spiazzo family had brought in, and Suit was working with the heart surgeon not to kill Israel, but to basically incapacitate him in some form or another, so they could bring him in somewhere in order to get his heart and save Spiazzo's life. And
I just want to emphasize one point as you're saying this: not to kill him, but to incapacitate him and bring him so they could remove his heart and kill him.
Yeah, not to kill him immediately, but to kill him later. Just in order to make sure it's like one way or another, either Israel was going to talk in order to get them what they need, or they'd try to turn Spiazzo by saving his life and make it so they hypothetically he would owe him, and thus start spilling, which wasn't even a given on that point. So they were hoping if they couldn't get one, they'd get the other, and basically as a given, one of them would end up dying there, but they'd get what they want, hypothetically. And
so based on this, but let me interject for one second. So based on this loose thread, the entire movie is hinged upon this faulty premise that they're hoping to pull off this thing. And as Ryan Reynolds' character, at this stage, when this is all explained to him, now I don't think Andy Garcia is the director. I think he's the assistant director, because he ends up talking to the director at one point, who then gives him the files. But when Andy Garcia explains this to Ryan Reynolds' character, Ryan Reynolds' character is incredulous, for good reason, that they went through this whole ridiculous firefight where everyone effectively dies, just so that they could get their hands on Buddy Israel, do a heart transplant to save this mob boss who has been a mob boss for 60 years. They were so incompetent that they weren't able to kill him in the 1940s. But after 60 years, they're hoping that now, well, we're going to kill your son for you. We're going to take his heart. We're going to transplant it into you, which will allow you to live. Therefore, we are hoping that based on this, you will then tell us a whole bunch of things regarding the mob and break it all completely wide open, which is fantastic, except he's been the mob boss for 60 years, number one. Number two, there's really no incentive for him being of his advanced age that even if he gets his heart transplant and lives a little longer, why would he want to spill the beans now? And number three, realistically, most of the information you have about the mob for the majority of his career is obsolete and out of date anyway. The newer stuff, would be of some use to you, but at the same time, you went in and you did all this on the hope that you'll be able to get some of that information you can use. This is part and parcel with the over-the-top hilariousness of it all. And
that would probably explain why Ryan Reynolds' character ends up doing what he does at the end of the film, just because of the absolute stupidity that surrounded him. Is like, you know what? If this is seriously what my company is, like what the FBI wants to do, and explains this, you know what? You deserve to get nothing at all. So as he's in the hospital with both Spiazzo and Israel, who technically father and son, he goes to the equipment or goes into the emergency room that has both of them in there, locks the door so that no one can get in after him, and pulls the plug on them both to end this idiocy once and for all. So technically, at least he's the only one who got a successful mission. He got his man, or got both of his men, one way or another. Only at the cost of every bloody other person in the film.
I'd like to think that this was, in a way, not in the original script. I would like to think this is when Ryan Reynolds realized that this was part of the script. And when he snapped, and he's like, that's it, everyone dies. No one will be left alive.
Technically, if I'm thinking correctly, this film might have an extra ending as well. I know it mentions 18 minutes of deleted scenes and outtakes. They do, or at least on particularly a little printout slip, it does mention something about an alternate ending existing for this film.
Okay.
So there might be an alternate ending. I didn't get the chance to look at it for this particular one, but I imagine it would be really funny. It's like, do you know how stupid this all is? And then just proceeds to go and kill everybody. Because realistically, I think, let me try to count who's left at the course of this film. So you have the man of multiple faces suit. He gets away. He did his job, so technically he's the only other person to succeed, since not only did he manage to complete his task, he got away.
It's implied that the Swede is still alive.
Yeah, the Swede technically the Swede was in the emergency room. He's a surgeon. He was not going to get killed because, quite frankly, he's not an assassin. He was never directly involved in all the killing. So obviously the Swede.
I believe also you have the guy with the blade or the knife, the spike that comes out of the sleeve. The one who was playing a hotel security man who got into the gunfight with Ray Liotta's character.
Yeah.
He was still alive.
Still alive, but was taken on stretcher.
Correct.
So hypothetically, although badly injured and probably arrested just after that, he's out alive. Of course, you have the Ryan Reynolds character, the one remaining FBI agent.
Alicia Keys.
Yeah. You have Alicia Keys, and I can't remember the actual actor's name, but basically one of the lethal ladies, because the other one ended up basically getting gunned down by FBI once her position was spotted. The one with the oversized sniper rifle was caught and killed. Mm-hmm. And with Alicia Keys was also one of Buddy Israel's bodyguards that he was actually about to sell out.
Rapper Common,
whose role was as Ivy, I believe his name was in this film, the character's name. So Ivy and Alicia Keys' characters escape, as basically they're just let go because it's unfortunate all this other stuff's going around, but we're kind of here, and then we just kind of got involved. We didn't actually directly or weren't responsible for the deaths of the people that you're looking for. So you can either try to do something with us, and everyone here in this area dies during the competition between both them and Ryan Reynolds' character, or we can just let each other go and do what we need to do. And they basically just got let go. And also one of Ryan Reynolds' group, the one that was the most reluctant to be there, was ironically also the only survivor after they got jumped by the Tremor brothers. And
no. You said Ryan Reynolds' group. You're talking Ben Affleck's.
I'm saying Ben Affleck's group. That's what I meant to say. Basically, the bail bondsman, the most reluctant of the bail bondsmen, was also the only one to survive after they did and put him through his own tangent, as he basically had to drag himself from an attempted both shooting and drowning in order to hide the evidence.
May I speak to this character for a moment?
Yeah, the guy's got his own little subplot. That's just screwed up.
Let me go into it for a moment, if I may.
Right.
We'll give you a quick breather.
Yeah.
So the three bail bondsmen, their plan to get into the hotel to get Buddy Israel was to dress up as hotel security guards. They had the uniforms and everything, and Ben Affleck was in the process of explaining it to them what they were going to do when they were gunned down by the three Tremor brothers. One of them being a young Chris Pine, who would later become Captain Kirk in the new Star Trek reboot the last couple of years. In this role, the three of them end up gunning him down. Because they literally drive by them in their car, blaring music as loud as possible. Ben Affleck turns for a second, sees them kind of drive away, and then goes back to what he's doing. And then the car backs into the shot, kind of like this, and then they gun them down with machine gun fire. So they steal the uniforms, but not before Chris Pine's character has a fake conversation with the dead Ben Affleck, manipulating his mouth so that he can communicate. Again, these guys are literally almost effectively out of 1980s WWF, which is how ridiculous their gimmick and their characters are. So they go and they have this thing. They end up stealing the uniforms. They use the uniforms to get into it. They end up being part of this extended gun battle where they all attack each other. One of them has a chainsaw where he attacks people. The two other brothers end up getting gunned down, and one of them ends up having the chainsaw basically cut him down as well. So two of the brothers are dead. Chris Pine's character slides himself into an elevator where he manages to escape by taking off all the clothes that he had on, changing himself into like a makeshift uniform so that he can pose as a fake FBI agent in order to escape. Now, zooming back to the three bail bondsmen, two of them end up dying of the gunshot wounds and then get thrown into a lake. The third one survives this attempt, manages to get to a house with a kid who needs like a triple dose of Ritalin. This becomes this little side plot where it's him dealing with this kid while he's trying to heal up and trying to live. The mother basically being there, and they have this ridiculous conversation I want to gloss over completely. As a result, he survives. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, technically, actually, it wasn't the mother, since I think it was some lady, like an aunt. It was another relative. It was like either an aunt, grandmother, but it wasn't the mother. But the person was also a registered nurse.
Whatever. The point was that I literally, my brain glossed over that part. But where I went to it is that, regardless, he managed to survive. Fast forward to right at the end of the movie, Chris Pine's character has survived. He's the only one of the three brothers to live through this massacre. He's trying to get away and getting to his car. And who's waiting for him in the parking lot but this third bail bondsman? They have this hilariously ridiculous conversation where basically Chris Pine's character completely acknowledges that they gunned him down and tried to drown him, and he kind of apologizes for it, and he goes, and basically he has this conversation with them, and they end up going, and he says, and he basically ends up giving him the keys to the car, and then walks away from him. And the bail bondsman lets him walk to a certain distance, and then basically he's like, fuck it, and just shoots the guy and drops him.
Yep.
Which was a hilarious end, considering he lived through this ridiculous firefight and then got gunned down by a guy who had a broken arm and a broken leg and barely crawled his way to safety in the first place.
Yep.
Like I said, this movie is fun, but it's absurd.
Yep. As odd as it sounds, I think we've actually gone, as if it's possible, we've gone through the crux of all the ridiculous stuff that kind of happened in this film at this point.
The majority of it, yes, but you know what? Let me come back here for 1 second.
Yeah. If you could just talk about it, I'm just going to figure out, I had someone at the door here, so let me figure out what they were talking about, and I'll actually be right back if you continue.
Sure, go ahead. Yeah. So, Manyninjas is checking that out. Basically, the key to what happened in this movie is that all these various subplots ended up coming together basically back in the center. But in the end, it ended up feeling like really sloppy writing, only because we had to find some way to bring them all back to the center. And the best way to do that is to have everybody converge on the same place as much as we can, have as many of them killed off as possible so we don't have to explain too many things. Alicia Keys and Common end up escaping. All three of the brothers end up getting killed. All the FBI agents are killed. We finally reveal that overall they've decided that the FBI has decided that their best bet is to do this heart transplant and hope against hope that somehow it's all going to work out. Which in the end causes Ryan Reynolds' character to snap, basically ensure the death of both of them so that they get absolutely nothing. And he basically is sitting there waiting, and when the movie cuts out for him, when it ends, we are not certain what happens to Ryan Reynolds' character. And that's how the movie ends. But overall, as ridiculous as it is, and it was, it ends up being a hilariously over-the-top film, which really was very enjoyable on several levels. What do you think, Manyninjas?
Generally, as for whether I'd recommend this film or not, I could actually easily recommend this film, I'm going to be honest. It's incredibly screwed up. It's actually really damn funny. And, well, technically, unfortunately, for those that are watching, if you haven't seen it already, it really just spoiled the big kind of plot and extra stuff that was going on in the background there. But even then, seeing how, especially over the course of the general progression to expose exactly what's going on here and how the hidden secondary FBI subplot kind of helped drive the course of the film, everything up until its natural conclusion, it makes for good viewing. You can find a copy of this film, get it.
Yeah, you know what? The thing is, this film is one where I had already watched it. We had two different sets of perspectives on this one. I've already seen the film a couple of times. I own it. The copy Manyninjas has is actually my copy. And I own it in a format that's obsolete to this day, which I can still watch it in HD if I want, but I can also watch the DVD. It's a double-sided disc. But the end result is that even having watched it, I was still able to go back, rewatch it, get reacquainted, and just get a kick out of the characters and the over-the-top ridiculousness. And to be honest, I didn't even realize that Chris Pine was in it the first time around. It's only now, in light of what came after, that you can kind of recognize more and more of the people in the movie. Because this was made in 2006, so it's been 8 years. It's been a while since this movie originally came out. And since then, all of the most of the people in this movie have moved on to do other things. They've been all over the place. But this movie, we can kind of look back on it, and we can see that it was very entertaining. It had its own thing. And I will say, just as a side note, limited though it was in what she got to do, I thought Alicia Keys did a great job in this movie as the character she was playing. She was playing one of the ridiculous characters that wasn't really multi-dimensional, so to speak, but she was still interesting in what she was trying to do and what she was, I felt.
I would actually say, although technically it began, like I mentioned earlier, it began as kind of an over-the-top setup there. As it turns out, at least her character ended up being one of the more, quote-unquote, balanced characters throughout the course of the film. And thus kind of makes sense why that character was also one of the few to actually survive the course of the film as a result.
Absolutely. Now, this film did give opening to a couple of sequels. Assassin's Ball is one that comes to mind, but it really has nothing to do with the events of the first one. So it's one of those almost like Death Race, where the sequel has really nothing to do with the original, which is too bad, because I almost would have wanted to see kind of what happened to Ryan Reynolds' character, what happened to Alicia Keys' character. I don't know if they could have come up with a way to bring them back to do it. It's probably too late at this point, which is too bad, because that would have been kind of fun. But yeah, this movie is a definite recommend. If you've watched this all the way through, you know, we've spoiled basically the surprise for you. But you can still watch the movie and get a lot of enjoyment out of it. And just watch some of the over-the-top performances that end up being in this film. This is a strictly entertainment film. You will not be blown away by dialogue. There are no Academy Awards to be handed out here. But it's just plain fun. Grab some popcorn, enjoy.
All right. I believe we have achieved the part of the program where it's now blatant product plugs.
Shameless plugging.
All right, let's see. Of course, more stuff of Retro Ninja Gaming at this point coming up. Technically, I have something that I've already recorded. I just need to do the voiceovers for it right now, and possibly a little extra side footage, which hopefully should be going up over the during the upcoming week, or really I should say this week, for particular. Technically, I'll be putting it up here. I was originally studying, as I mentioned during the last recording, studying stuff for a midterm. As it turns out, the thing's not even open until technically this Tuesday. So I jumped the gun a bit, but at least I got some stuff ahead of time. So knowing that I have a bit more buffer room, I can get some more video work done as well. Additionally, for my own website, I am Manyninjas.com. On Twitter, it's at Manyninjas on Twitter. And technically, not a plug for me, but right now, especially for those that are more video game minded, during the course of this week, it technically started on Sunday, is Summer Games Done Quick, which is a fundraising event that goes over multiple days that is currently being done by the speed running community at Speed Demos Archives, and they're currently raising funds for Doctors Without Borders. For more information on that, you can see kind of the schedule as well as the actual. They should have a window on Twitch as well on the site for GamesDoneQuick.com. And that's my plug for somebody else right now. How about you, Carlos?
Very nice. I don't have any such plugs, but it's the usual for me. Website, Twitter, like, subscribe, comment, include hate mail. Hate mail can be directed directly to Manyninja's mailbox, which I will forward. So you can just put any hate mail in there, and I will send it to him. He will take it personally and possibly kill you.
I like killing.
Exactly. And that's another episode. We'll be back again in a few days or a week or so. We're going to try to figure out what we're going to do with the scheduling of it. What I've decided that we're probably going to end up doing is we'll probably put a couple of these videos together. We're probably going to start recording them in batches and then just trying to release them on a regular basis. We'll see how that goes. We'll try it out and we'll see how that goes, and we'll proceed from there. Now, we did discuss it already.
Actually,
we're kind of go ahead.
Actually, I know you're about to mention some of the videos that we're going to be doing next. Realistically, up to this point, just kind of an aside here, something that's been going on in the background. For some of the things we were going to be planning on recording and watching for the next couple of AMS, I actually ordered a number of films that were actually related to that. It would have been technically a few weeks ago, and it was supposed to show up on Friday the 13th, the package I had. If I may spoil a few of the films there. Technically, one of them I just got for fun, kind of a copy or a Blu-ray copy of the RoboCop trilogy. We talked about the first one. There are no plans for 2 or 3, but I just wanted to have a complete set on Blu-ray. And 2 films that we were planning on doing as well being the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, Street Fighter of all things, believe it or not. Because quite frankly, there's an entire mess behind that's worth talking about, on top of the cheesy movie itself, as well as the first Mortal Kombat live-action film. I was supposed to get that stuff on Friday the 13th, but nothing came in, and it wasn't until Wednesday of the week after that I got a message or an update on it saying there's a delay on my package, because despite being on February 12th, or Thursday the 12th, in Concord, Ontario, some kind of a clerical error must have gone on over UPS, because by Wednesday, I learned that my package had been shipped back into British Columbia, but on the Annacis Islands, British Columbia, which is not even the place where it started at, so I have no idea what the hell happened. But lo and behold, I just checked today, and now I've seen it's back in transit again, and should hypothetically be in my possession tomorrow, unless something terrible happens again.
Absolutely. I was going to address that by saying we don't know what the next movie is going to be. It was pending. That transit should have happened already.
Yep.
But if everything goes according to plan, we will do one of those movies that was covered. If not, I will update on Twitter. Alternate plans. We do have backups in place just in case. But that's it for myself. Manyninjas, do you have any last words?
Well, I would have some last words, but I'm going to be honest, ladies and gentlemen. Shortly after we're done with this recording, I'm going to go back to watching Summer Games Done Quick. So thank you all for watching. Be catching you later. And if anyone needs me, I've got some video game stuff to watch.
See you next time.